Okay, now this point about teleology is an important point. Classical film narrative is teleological. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that everything is organised towards a payoff. On the one side of the necessity clause, real life, the world of complication, isn't like that. But over here, in the drama itself, everything is paid off. Everything makes sense. In other words, classical drama is not a mimicry or a reproduction of life, but a mimesis or abstraction of the essence of life. It has continuity and closure. It has a unity of space and time. Now, how do we demonstrate that? As I said previously, we'll demonstrate how this three-act structure works by doing two things. Firstly, I'll be showing you a classically constructed movie, and it's going to be Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke, to demonstrate how Aristotle's conventions work in producing an artistically satisfying drama that has continuity and closure, that has a unity of space and time. And then, when we've really nailed down all these various component parts, structuring and using graphs that enable us to understand why this is an artistically satisfying film, we'll then apply these same principles in adapting a poem, a romantic poem, as a feature film script. And that poem is going to be Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Now, these choices are not accidental. Because the target audience of my book on script writing is that of guerrilla filmmakers, I didn't want to use some cheesy, high-concept movie from mainstream Hollywood that they were going to hate. On the other hand, it's no good having some obscure art house movie, because at the end of the day, those movies don't have a classical three-act structure, and that's the whole point of this course. In Training Day, your social territory is very radical. It's a Los Angeles which mainstream Hollywood would hate, and therefore it owes something very much to that sort of social realist tradition. But in its structure, Training Day is very, very Aristotelian. And it's very, very Aristotelian because it's actually a rite of passage story. It's in the tradition of the Greek myths. It's in the tradition of Jason and the Argonauts. The dramatic action, for a start, doesn't leave Ethan Hawke at any point in the drama until Lonzo, played by Denzel Washington, is killed at the end. And my choice of Rime of the Ancient Mariner is likewise because, as this kind of romantic romantic poem that's in the tradition of what's called the dramatic narrative, it too conforms to this three-act structure. And it also does other things that are quite important, that romantic poetry does, that are important to good filmmaking. It uses symbolic imagery and a sparse writing for the eye, by which we mean the camera. But it also, like all great romantic poems, has an understated morality leading to moral closure. And that is the difference between actually understanding the popular mechanics, the mechanical side of the three-act structure, and why it really, really hits the spot in a great film. It's the difference between a good film and a great film is that it actually manages to actually conform to those criteria. Now, what are the key strategic points in Training Day? We'll break these down, we'll use graphs, we'll show you this. But one of the most important things we'll look at to start with is the necessity clause. Now, the necessity clause in Training Day is very, very easy to recognise. You have this opening sequence where Ethan Hawke is ill at ease, where Denzel Washington's put him on the spot. He's followed him across the road. Denzel's in charge. Ethan's trailing behind him like a puppy dog. They're in the car. Denzel gives his spiel. Right at the end of this, Ethan Hawke says, "I will do anything you want me to do." And after that, what does Denzel do? He turns around and he laughs and says, "Ha, my nigger." At that point, Ethan Hawke is locked into the drama. And because he's the protagonist, so too is the whole of the audience. That is a textbook necessity clause. Secondly, all the plot in Training Day, quite rightly, is set up in the first act. It's set up in the first half hour of the drama. But there's a key plot point which is very easily to recognise 28 minutes into the film, when Ethan Hawke prevents the young Mexican girl from being raped. That key plot point will be revisited at the end of the second act, at the protagonist's low point, when he's in the bath, when the pump-action shotgun is in his face, you think he's going to die. That key plot point is what saves his life, and is the key to catharsis, reversal, at that critical point. But before then, we have the second act, where character is revealed and tested by the plot that's already been set up, where the emotional stakes are raised after the midpoint of the film, because the sun's going across the sky, so we can see exactly where that midpoint is. And the ticking clock escalates after the midpoint, taking us to that protagonist low point in the bathtub. Then we have our catharsis, then we have our reversal. After this, Ethan Hawke, as the protagonist, is morally empowered to take charge in the third act and to pay off in the third act all of the plot that was set up in the first act. There's a quote by Chekhov we'll be using quite a great deal. Chekhov at one point says, if a gun is on the wall during the first act of a drama, it must be discharged by the end of the third act of the drama, and Training Day exemplifies this. The payoff is the payoff of all the plot established in the drama, and this is what gives it its integrity, its unity of space and time. It's what makes it such a great film. And when we return to these points, when we look at when we've got these points written down as a kind of checklist, we will then use them in adapting The Rime of the Ancient Mariner as a film script. And once you've done that, I think you'll be ready to be unleashed on your own projects, which is the final part of what you'll be doing here, is when you actually write your own film scripts and make your own films. Now, what we offer you here in the film school is a 3-tier service, insofar that the more you pay, the further we help you to take your film. This could include bringing in co-producers and finances, organising seminars and helping to arrange introductions to sales agents for those of you who stay with the course to the end. Among the many unique selling points of this film school is that we are actually filmmakers ourselves, and while we need to make a profit from the film school, what we're really looking for is partners and co-producers who actually make films. So there you've had your introduction. I welcome you all to the Counterintelligence Film School, and I hope that our working together as partners will be very productive.